We conclude this evening with Cory Richards and Adrian Ballinger. They attempted to reach the summit of the world's highest mountain, Mount Everest. Cory Richards made it. Adrian Ballinger stopped 125 feet short. We talk about the experience now that they're back in the United States.
There's a purity to it. I mean, I just believe that rather than bringing a mountain down to our level, we should try to rise up to the level of the mountain. And that's not to say that everybody can do that. I mean, genetically, that's just not viable for everybody. But for people who, can do it, I think we should try.
Mount Everest is Earth's highest mountain, standing at 29,035 feet above sea level. Since the first ascent in 1953 by Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay, reaching Everest summit has been considered one of the greatest achievements in mountaineering. To accomplish this task without the use of supplemental oxygen is even more remarkable. This month, two American climbers, Adrian Ballinger and Cory Richards, attempted to do just that. Together, they documented their journey in real time on Snapchat under the username Everest No Filter. Here is a look.
Well, here we go. 11 miles to ABC, 6,400 meters. First move of our summit push. Feels good.
This is Hair by Everest. That's a new hashtag. It's a thing.
Hair by Everest.
It's a thing.
I think mine's better than his.
It's another Himalayan sunrise. Oh. Say hi to the world. Hey B, giving a big Snapchat. What's up? What's up? 770.
Cory and I are gonna skip right by 7.5, continue up into the rocks. Love 25,000 feet.
Oh, I'm not sure I do, but I do love that view. Unfortunately, AB had to turn around a little bit earlier, so it's up to me to hold it down. That's the summit. That's the summit ridge. And that's the wind I'm chasing or running away from.
Cory, you're a machine. You're amazing. Congratulations.
Ballinger was forced to turn back due to health concerns, but Richards finished the climb and reached the summit. Joining me now, Adrian Ballinger and Cory Richards. It's extraordinary what you did. It really is.
Thanks.
I mentioned that we had it up there. You were forced to turn down.
That's right.
And not go within 125 feet. You have told this story over and over. It was because?
You know, my body temperature was dangerously cold. I had hypothermia and was slurring my words, having trouble doing basic climbing functions that I've been doing for decades. My body was just shutting down up there.
If anybody ought to know, you ought to know, because you have climbed the summit 6 times.
6 times previously, but all with supplemental oxygen and all while guiding, helping other people to reach the summit. So this is my first attempt with Cory to do it without supplemental oxygen.
So tell me about the two of you, how you came together, how you decided to do this together, how you decided to put it on Snapchat.
Well, we actually met, I guess, back in 2010. I was climbing Lhotse, which is the 4th highest mountain, and it's connected to...
No piece of cake there either.
I mean, it was fun, that trip. It was fast, actually, and I think that was when we first sort of started talking about this, and that's actually connected to Everest, so it shares a common base camp on the south side, and we sort of met each other, liked each other's energy, years passed, saw each other again in 2012, talked about this again. I was evacuated from Everest that year, so, I was trying without oxygen then, and sort of met a poor end to that expedition.
Why was it so important for you and you to do it without oxygen?
There's a purity to it. I mean, I just believe that rather than bringing a mountain down to our level, we should try to rise up to the level of the mountain. And that's not to say that everybody can do that. I mean, genetically, that's just not viable for everybody. But for people who, can do it, I think we should try.
Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is I just love what I've seen on Everest every time I go there is this human struggle. It brings out the best in people, sometimes the worst in people, but everyone up there fights so hard emotionally and physically to stand on top. And so to attempt without oxygen was, I think, the ultimate expression of that for Cory and myself. We're genetically lucky we climb well at altitude. We're both full-time climbers. To attempt it in this way was the cleanest way to try to have that experience.
How many people, more than 7,000 people, have summited Mount Everest? How many have done it without oxygen?
Less than 200.
Less than 200?
Less than 200.
So that puts you in a remarkable...
It's about a 2% window. So it's I mean, honestly, running around New York City seems more taxing to me at times than climbing Everest. But I mean, it is a small window.
Why did you not make it on a previous
and
why did you make it all other times?
Yeah.
And not make it this time?
I mean, I think, to be perfectly honest with you, in 2012, I had a different partner. It was a different partnership. There was, I was with National Geographic photographing an article then, and I just had too much pressure. And I was climbing towards 7,000 meters, and all of a sudden I started having problems breathing, and so I went down. I couldn't slow my respiration, and later, my doctor, she just, the doctor, Luann Freer, who runs the Everest ER, she said, I don't really know how to tell you this without sounding dramatic, and I'm not sure how much you want to share with people. But as far as I can tell, you just had a panic attack, like a massive panic attack. And it was too much pressure, it was too much stress, and this was all coming off an experience I had in Pakistan in 2010-11, the winter, where we had done the first winter ascent of Gasherbrum 2, another 8,000 meter peak, and my partners and I had gotten hit by a massive avalanche on the way down, and that I was getting triggered, and really leading out of that, I discovered that I had pretty severe post-traumatic stress disorder from that avalanche.
How did you overcome that?
Lots of therapy. But that's true, I mean, that's really...
I think you're doing a huge service by acknowledging this.
Well, I mean, it's a big piece of the story that nobody knows, and it's something that I think is pervasive in climbing. People don't talk about, I mean, climbing is traditionally this very manly or sort of like very stoic, you don't talk about the suffering, you just endure it. And honestly, there's a lot of trauma that goes into this, and the brain just doesn't differentiate between traumas. It says, I had a near-death experience. It doesn't matter if you were in combat or in a car accident, and that's something that we don't really discuss in our sort of society. We think that trauma is sort of reserved for a combat situation, and that's just not true. And many, many more people suffer from it than we really acknowledge.
It's the threat of death.
It is the threat of death. And honestly, there's two. There's many, but the threat of death and then asphyxiation is the next most traumatic experience. So when you have the threat of death being an avalanche and that cause of death potentially being asphyxiation, you've got sort of a double, it's really, yeah.
But you had bad weather, tough weather.
We had tough weather.
Tough weather. We saw that in the videotape. You had no avalanche, did you?
No avalanche. Conditions were really safe on the mountain this year.
So what was different for you, other than you felt colder and you felt it threatened your very possibility?
Yeah, well, certainly, the big difference was supplemental oxygen versus not. All my previous summits have been with supplemental oxygen, and I always felt very within my sphere of control. That's why I was able to guide other people to the summit and feel comfortable helping them to make decisions as well as my own. This time, without supplemental oxygen, it's really difficult to describe how different it is. Physically, the started moving away from me on the mountain, and our expedition doctor in base camp was on a radio to us, and I went a few hours without really communicating very well, and these guys started to ask questions like, what's going on? You're always on the radio. You love to talk. What, you know, what's wrong? And that's when I started to identify as well that I didn't feel how I needed to.
So were they encouraging you not to go forward, or were they leaving it up to you totally?
Yes, Monica, our expedition doctor, started suggesting I turn around probably 3 to 4 hours in. I went a whole nother hour to the point where I was just shivering and no longer able to really work with the ropes.
Is it a hard decision, or do you simply say, you know, I'm a young man, I can do this again?
At the time, it wasn't a hard decision at all. It was very clear I got to the point where I was going to become a fatality up there if I didn't turn around.
If you didn't turn around, you were going to die.
That's right.
And you knew that.
Yeah, I felt that very clearly.
And did you worry that if you continued, you might, in fact, impede his success?
I'd love to say that was front and center in my mind, but it wasn't at the time, even though there is a reality to that decision. My turning around, while I could still rescue under my own power, helped, you know, let Cory go with a clear conscience to the top. But at the time, it was just black and white to me that if I continue, I will not come back off this mountain and I need to go down.
You just tell us when you reach the top. I'm avoiding asking the question, what do you feel, but what was the moment for you?
You know, it's an interesting, I mean, getting to the top of these peaks, I think people expect revelation, they expect some sort of release, they expect some sort of aha moment, seeing God, and yeah, you see God in the landscape, and but you don't. At least I have never had that sort of opening moment. I get there, and to be perfectly honest, I'm horrified because I am further out at that point than I'm ever going to get, and especially on Everest, you're as far out as you can get, especially without oxygen. And so to me,
you were scared to death.
I am horrified. At that moment, it is, okay, I want to take some really quick pictures, some bad blurry selfies, and I want to get out of here as fast as I can.
And live with the memory.
And live with the memory. And I think that's also, you know, I'm having a little bit of a hard time coming to terms with what's transpired. Because I took no time to ingest it. So the idea that I was actually there still to me occurs almost as a little bit of a dream sequence. You know, I haven't let that sink in.
It's hard for you to sort of think through that I did it.
Yes, I have not accepted that in any way, shape, or form, and quite frankly, I'm not sure that I ever will, because it was so quick.
Well, it's quick for most people, isn't it? Reasonably quick?
It's reasonably quick.
Yeah, I've spent as little as 3 minutes on the summit and as long as over an hour.
Yeah, but with oxygen.
With oxygen, so you can sit and sort of take it all in. Yeah.
You started as friends, you started as fellow climbers, you started with a mission. You ended as brothers, is that too much to say?
I wouldn't say that's too much. I believe that that's true. That's what happens when you
face death together, when you face opportunity together.
You know, the funny thing is, and it's not only facing death and the intensity, but it's also the boredom of it. It's kind of, it is life, right? It's a microcosm of life. We spent 2 months on the mountain, and a lot of it was not that exciting. But there's those moments of intenseness combined with just the day-to-day grind of making an expedition like this work. And yeah, I mean, I think it's just incredible how we work together on the mountain. And
what kind of feedback were you getting?
From each other?
Yeah, or from us and people talking to you.
That was part of the beauty of Snapchat, actually. Yeah. We got literally hundreds of comments a day, videos, photos, people saying they were showing it to their classrooms, teachers, families saying they woke up every morning to breakfast with our Snapchats. Really, the feedback was such a positive energy source for us as we climbed.
So what's next?
That's the big question. Summer.
Food.
I need to recover some. Food, sun, you know, time at home with friends and loved ones. But we're talking about heading back to the Himalaya this autumn for another peak, another climb.
In autumn?
Yeah, only 3 months away.
October, September, October, November? September.
Yeah. Yeah.
Will it be different this way? Not in terms of whether you make it or not, but in terms
I
of...
hope it's different.
Yeah, I do too. No, I'm not asking that. But in terms of how you approach it, how you train, how you do anything. Or do you just train always the same way, and the surprise element is what the weather's going to be like, and will you meet an avalanche?
I mean, I think, hopefully we don't meet another avalanche, right. But I think this fall we might try to do it a little bit differently in terms of how fast we do it, and that would change our training.
Faster or slower?
Faster.
Ah.
Yeah.
As I leave you, we did a morning program together, CBS This Morning, and you guys, because of Everest hair.
Yes, yeah. We got haircuts today.
Yeah. Brought me a little something, and we leave you from CBS This Morning. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much.
Great to see you again.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. See you next time.
Oh. Charlie, this is Hair by Everest wig. I think you're going to look
We want
great.
you to be part of the
yeah,
team.
Yeah, you definitely just, there you go. You look like Adrian every morning. Oh, we got to...
For more about this program and early episodes, visit us online at pbs.org and charlierose.com.